You're losing words. Conversations slip away. Details that should stick don't. You think it's just aging, but here's what's actually happening. In 30 days of the right omega-3 supplementation, your brain can measurably begin rebuilding itself. Your brain is 60% fat, not muscle, not bone, fat. And that fat needs constant rebuilding, every single day. After you turn 40, your brain starts shrinking. About 0.5% per year sounds small, but it adds up. By your 60s, it accelerates. Your hippocampus, your memory center, is the first to go. It's not that you're getting older, it's that the building blocks for your brain aren't there anymore. But they can be restored. In the next 20 minutes, I'm going to show you exactly what happens when you give your brain the right omega-3 fatty acids for 30 days straight. Not a guess. Not what the supplement company hopes happens. What the scans show. What the research actually demonstrates when you do this properly. Let's start with what happens in that first week, because this is where most people actually feel something shift. Your brain is drowning in inflammation right now. I know you can't see it on an MRI. It doesn't show up like a tumor or a stroke, but it's there. It's constant, and it's killing your clarity. Here's why. Microglial cells are your brain's immune system. They're supposed to activate when there's a threat, clear out dead cells, fight infection, keep things clean. But in most aging brains, especially if you've been eating seed oils and processed food for decades, these cells never stand down. They're like security guards who saw a disturbance once and now they're permanently on alert, constantly scanning, constantly activated, pouring out inflammatory chemicals 24 hours a day. That's your baseline right now. That's the noise. When you start taking high-dose DHA, 2 grams daily, you're not just adding a supplement, you're introducing EPA, which is the anti-inflammatory agent that finally tells those guards to relax. EPA converts into something called Specialized Pro-Resolving Mediators, or SPMs. These aren't slow. They're not gradual. They literally signal your inflammatory cascade to stop. Your blood chemistry shifts within days. By day 3 or 4, you'll start to notice something. The fog lifts a little. Not dramatically, just you're thinking a bit clearer. By day 5, the change is more obvious. The constant mental hum is quieting down. Here's what's crucial to understand. You're not building new neurons yet. You're not growing new connections. What you're doing is removing the noise. You're quieting the inflammatory static so your existing pathways can actually fire cleanly again. It's like turning down the background noise in a crowded room so you can hear what someone's actually saying. This is why people report sharper thinking, better focus, fewer of those senior moments by the end of week 1. The inflammation firewall is working. It's not a placebo. The mechanism is real. Your microglia are actually down-regulating. The inflammatory proteins in your cerebrospinal fluid are dropping. Your brain is telling you something fundamental has shifted. But you've only cleared the noise. Right now, something else is already starting. The actual structural material your brain needs to rebuild itself. But you won't feel it yet. That's what arrives in week 2. After the inflammation settles, something entirely different starts to happen in your brain. Now you're moving past cleanup and into rebuilding. DHA makes up 40% of your synaptic membranes. That's not a supporting player. That's the actual structural material. Think of it this way. If your neurons are conversations, the synapses are the telephone lines connecting them. DHA is the coating on those wires. When DHA levels drop, which they do in most aging brains, those connections don't just perform worse, they become stiff, sluggish. Imagine trying to have a conversation when the telephone line is damaged, the signal is weak, and everything feels like you're speaking through mud. By day 8, something specific is happening. DHA has crossed the blood-brain barrier and is actively integrating into your synaptic membranes. Scientists call this membrane remodeling. It's not instant, it's a process, but it's already underway. Your neurons are already beginning to rebuild the insulation on their connections. Around the same time, your brain starts producing something called BDNF, brain-derived neurotrophic factor. This is the fertilizer for brain growth. BDNF tells your brain it has resources. It tells it to grow. Studies show that DHA supplementation boosts BDNF by up to 50% in the hippocampus. 50%. That's not marginal. That's the difference between a brain that's struggling and a brain that's ready to repair itself. But here's the catch nobody talks about. You have to hit a minimum amount of DHA to trigger this response. Most people taking standard fish oil from the drugstore aren't hitting that threshold. They have no idea they're underdosed. Here's where it gets structural. Those tiny connection points between your neurons, called dendritic spines, start physically increasing in density. Around 25% more of them. You're literally growing more branches on your neural trees. More branches mean more pathways. More pathways mean more ways for information to flow through your brain. Simultaneously, something else is accelerating during this window. Myelin sheath repair. Your nerve fibers are wrapped in a fatty coating called myelin. It's insulation. The better that insulation is, the faster your signals travel. Degraded myelin means slow signals. Restored myelin means fast signals. Research on patients with diabetic neuropathy shows the real-world impact. When people took omega-3 supplements consistently, the number of myelinated nerve fibers went from roughly 1,400 up to around 3,000. That's nearly doubling the healthy conduction pathways in those nerves. Your brain is doing the same thing right now. By week 2, you'll notice this shifting. Tasks that required intense concentration suddenly feel easier. Not because you're less tired or the room is quieter, because your brain is conducting signals faster through better insulated pathways. This is the phase where people start reporting they remember names easier. They follow complex conversations without losing the thread halfway through. They retrieve words faster. Not perfectly, but noticeably. The processing lag is shrinking. Week 2 to week 3 is often when someone says, "Wait, I think this is actually working." But the real changes are still accelerating underneath. By day 21, you're not just feeling sharper in the moment. Your brain's actual wiring is becoming more efficient. The architecture itself is reorganizing. The connections your brain uses most frequently are strengthening. The insulation on those pathways is improving. You're not imagining the difference. Your brain is structurally different than it was 3 weeks ago. Yet the measurable structural gain, the one that shows up on an MRI, arrives during the final stretch of your first month. Here's where the conversation shifts from what you feel to what the scans actually show. This is the part that matters most, because this is where your independence gets protected. Remember, the hippocampus is shrinking in most aging brains. We're talking 1 to 2% every single year. That's not theoretical, that's measurable on an MRI. And this is where memory loss begins. Not in the cortex, not in some distant part of your brain. Here, in the hippocampus. When it shrinks, you shrink with it. A landmark trial followed 240 seniors for 12 months. Half took 2 grams of DHA daily, half took placebo. Then they scanned their brains. The ones taking DHA, their hippocampus didn't just stabilize, it increased. Measurably. On an MRI. This wasn't opinion, this was tissue, actual structural volume change. But here's the critical part, and most people miss this. Those changes don't show up on day 15. They show up at the end. Right now, during days 22 through 30, the DHA is finally saturating the hippocampal tissue. It's been integrating into your membranes, quieting inflammation, rebuilding synapses all month. But tissue saturation takes time. The structural changes, the actual volume increase, they're happening now. When DHA reaches saturation, something shifts at the genetic level. DHA doesn't just sit in your membranes as inert material, it activates gene expression. It tells your brain, we have resources, grow, repair. This triggers something called mTOR signaling. It's the same pathway that builds muscle when you strength train, but in your brain right now, it's building synaptic connections. It's telling your neurons to strengthen their networks, to invest in growth. Your total brain volume starts stabilizing. The rate of atrophy that was steady before, that 0.5% per year that feels inevitable, it slows dramatically. Not overnight, but measurably. The trajectory changes. The WIMS trial studied postmenopausal women with high omega-3 levels. Those women had hippocampi that were 159 cubic millimeters larger than their low omega-3 counterparts. 159 millimeters. That's not trivial on a structural level. And that volume difference translated into something real. Measurably better memory performance, faster information processing, better digit span on cognitive tests. The bigger hippocampus wasn't just a number, it was functional. It meant they could remember more, hold more information in working memory, retrieve it faster. By day 30, you've done something profound. You haven't reversed aging. You haven't stopped time. What you've done is laid a foundation for sustained protection. You've given your brain the material it needs to defend itself against the shrinkage that's coming. This is the phase where independence stays intact. You're not just thinking more clearly in the moment, you're literally preserving the hardware that lets you live independently. The hardware that lets you remember your grandchildren's names, that lets you follow complex conversations, that lets you live your life without that creeping fog of cognitive decline closing in. But there's a silent saboteur that's actively dismantling this in most people. Now here's where I need to be direct with you, because everything I just described, all of it, only happens if you're actually taking what works. And most people aren't. About 45% of commercial fish oil supplements arrive on your shelf already rancid. That's not an exaggeration, that's what the testing shows. Rancid means oxidized. Oxidized means the EPA and DHA have already broken down. You open the bottle thinking you're getting a protective agent, but what you're actually getting is damaged molecular fragments. And here's the problem. When fish oil oxidizes, it doesn't just become inert, it becomes harmful. The oxidation process creates peroxides and aldehydes. These are free radicals. You're taking a supplement designed to reduce oxidative stress in your brain and instead feeding it free radicals that increase oxidative stress. You're working against yourself. There's a measurement for this, the TOTOX value. It stands for total oxidation. TOTOX should be below 5 to 10, that's the target. Most commercial products test between 15 and 26. Some are worse. A 2012 study deliberately oxidized fish oil and gave it to healthy adults. The oxidized version didn't reduce oxidative stress markers. Imagine what it does to an aging brain already under oxidative load. This is why some people take fish oil for months, feel nothing, and give up. They're not taking rancid oil by accident. They're buying whatever was on the shelf at the store. The fix is simple. Demand third-party testing. Look for IFOS 5-star certification. These labs independently verify the TOTOX value and publish it. If a brand won't publish their oxidation numbers, that's your answer right there. Don't buy it. Also, storage matters. Heat and light accelerate oxidation. Your fish oil should be in a cool, dark place. Check the expiration date. Buy from sources with fast turnover, not warehouse stock that's been sitting for 2 years. But there's a second mistake, and it's more subtle. Ratio matters. DHA is 250 to 300 times more concentrated in your brain than EPA. You need both. EPA is your anti-inflammatory agent, but DHA should dominate if you want structural changes. An optimal ratio for brain protection is 2:1 DHA to EPA or higher. Most standard fish oil is 18:12, which is closer to 1.5:1. If you're taking standard fish oil expecting the hippocampal volume gains we talked about, you might be disappointed because the DHA concentration simply isn't high enough. Here's another layer: dosing precision. High-dose DHA trials use 2 grams of pure DHA daily. That's different from 2 grams of fish oil, which might contain only 300 to 500 milligrams of DHA. 580 milligrams daily is your minimum threshold. That's the floor for any cognitive benefit at all. But if you want the structural changes we talked about earlier, the actual hippocampal volume gains, the dendritic spine density increases, you need to go higher. You need at least 900 milligrams to 2 grams daily. Below that dose, you're protecting what you have. You're not rebuilding it. If you're taking standard fish oil at the typical dose, you're probably getting underdosed. Test yourself. Get your omega-3 index measured. It's a simple blood test. Target 8 to 11%. That's your confirmation. Most doctors don't routinely order this test, and most standard labs don't offer it as a regular draw. There's an at-home kit that requires only a single drop of blood. No doctor's visit, no waiting, and it's linked in the description. This is the difference between guessing the protocol is working and actually knowing. But here's the good news. This is completely fixable. Once you know what to look for, the rest is straightforward. The protocol itself is straightforward. 2 grams of DHA daily paired with 400 to 600 milligrams of EPA. If you're using standard fish oil, you'll need 4 to 6 grams daily to hit that DHA target. That's a lot of pills. Concentrated formulas or algae-based DHA can reduce the capsule burden. Now, finding a supplement that actually meets these clinical criteria, the right ratio, the right dose, third-party tested, is genuinely confusing given how many options exist. I've vetted a specific option that hits all these marks, and it's linked in the description so you don't have to guess. Take it with a meal containing fat. DHA absorption improves dramatically with dietary fat in your system. Consistency matters more than perfection. Same time every day. You're building tissue, not taking a symptom reliever. But don't stop at 30 days thinking you're done. This is foundation work. The structural changes, the actual hippocampal volume gains, take 12 to 24 weeks of consistent supplementation to show up on an MRI. You won't see them until you're months in, but they're happening. The cognitive improvements you feel in month 1 are proof the mechanism is working. Combine this with sleep. DHA synthesis accelerates during deep sleep. Add cardiovascular exercise. It increases blood flow to your brain. Switch toward a Mediterranean-style diet, which reduces oxidative stress. Omega-3s aren't a magic solution. They're the building material, but you have to provide the conditions for building. Here's what most people don't understand. Cognitive improvements typically plateau around 24 to 26 weeks of consistent supplementation. That's when the functional gains level off. But the structural changes keep building. For months. For longer. The volume gains continue. The connection strengthening continues. The myelin sheath repair continues. Track yourself. Keep a simple log. Memory lapses. Word retrieval. Processing speed on mental tasks. By week 3, you'll see the pattern. It's not vague. It's measurable. If you don't feel noticeably sharper by week 2, switch supplements. You've likely got rancid product or underdosed material. Your brain is worth the effort to get it right. After 12 weeks, get your omega-3 index tested again. You should see a 3 to 4% increase if you're taking the right dose of quality supplement. That's how you confirm this is working, not hope. Blood work. But here's what most people don't realize. The omega-3 foundation you just laid is powerful, but it's incomplete without one specific food that turbocharges memory rebuilding. Most people waste time on the standard recommendations when there's something far more effective that actually works with your brain's own repair mechanisms. The next video shows exactly what that food is and how it compounds the structural changes you're starting right now. When you combine it with the protocol we discussed, the right omega-3 dose, the consistency, the tracking, the cognitive gains accelerate dramatically. Separately, they work. Together, they rebuild memory in ways that show up on tests. If you want to follow the exact protocol and actually track your progress, both the vetted omega-3 option and the at-home omega-3 index test are linked in the description. Watch this next. You're about to learn what most doctors never mention to their patients.